Hi everyone, this is Ed from Runnable, and this is my review of the new Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 4, the super carbon rod racing shoe from Adidas that's just been released. I know some reviewers got this last year. I've got this now in January because I bought this with my own money. Just get that out of the way now. So this is an unbiased review. For those of you who like to see run footage as well, you'll see that at the end of the video. If you want to see that first, obviously by all means use the chapters and go and have a watch. This is my first impressions review of this shoe, and I give you a spoiler alert straight away. I'm really liking this from a first impression point of view. So let's go through some specs of the shoe, and then I'll go into some parts of the shoe that I like, what it felt like on the run with this shoe, who I think the shoe would be suitable for, and that's a key point here because it won't be suitable for everyone. And I'll compare it to some of the other shoes that are out there on the marketplace. So in terms of specs, in terms of weight, it's a very light shoe. In my UK size 9, and I went true to size, it is 204 grams actually, which is really light. So the only shoes I've got that are lighter than that are the 361 degrees Miro, which is incredibly light, down at 160, and then the A6 Metaspeed shoes that are a kind of a 180 for the Paris, 190 for the Edge, and then this would be my next lightest shoe. So it's incredibly light, lighter than the Alpha Fly 3, and lighter than the, similar, I think a little bit lighter than the Puma Deviate Nitro 3, but it's comparable with those shoes, and it feels very light. So if we talk about the stack height for a minute, you've got a stack height 39 in the heel, 33 in the forefoot, giving you that 6mm drop. So you've got good cushion wherever you land in this shoe. You do have this cutout here on the medial side, something to be aware of for those who land midfoot on your medial side. You may feel some impact here, but by and large, it's well covered in terms of the landing area. You've got particularly nice landing area for the forefoot. We'll talk a bit more about that when we talk about the outsole. In terms of the upper, you've got this really nice, lightweight, almost translucent, you can see my fingers through there moving around, engineered mesh. Its name, I think, is Micro Fit, and it's supposed to be able to lock your foot in from a horizontal point of view. There's a lack of movement left or right, so it keeps you locked in. So add some stability there, some structure. But it does give you some flex vertically. So but in terms of movement this way, you do get some flex. It's got quite a low volume, so you do feel your foot brushed up against this material. And there is a kind of toe guard, if you want to call it that. It's a bit of a toe guard here where the material's slightly harder, and I know that's caused a lot of people some problems with toe rubbing. So on my run today, which I had a bit of a Strava fail today, so I forgot to start and stop my watch a bit. So I think all in all it should have been around about the 11k mark. I think it came in more like just under 10k. I didn't have any issues whatsoever with toe rub. In fact, my toes are pretty sensitive at the moment from the half marathon, and they felt pretty good in this. I think this upper is a fantastic upper in terms of the feel. I love this material. It's very lightweight, lovely to touch, lovely for your toes, the feel, how your toes feeling it. Sorry. It's a wide enough base here. Does taper in towards the end, so those that are really on the edge of your sizing here, you might want to go up half a size. I stayed true to size, and I've just about got enough room. We'd have to see what this feels like, once I do extra mileage, like if I go to half marathon or beyond, I might have a different opinion. and maybe I should have gone up half a size. But certainly for the run I did today, it was perfectly fine, given that my toes are quite sore anyway. The rest of the upper, you've got a nice tongue. It's stitched so it doesn't move around. You've got this nice tongue pillow, I think they call it these days. Unfortunately, it doesn't go up high enough. So when you cinch your laces, they're not cinched on top of that pillow, which is a bit of a design flaw, really. Would it be nice if they carried it up further up, and then you have that nice area to be able to cinch your laces and have no pressure on the top of your foot. But that said, I didn't have any issues with that. You know, these are quite narrow laces. They've got a tendency to cut into your feet, but I didn't have any problem with that. I think the tongue is fairly good. There's an extra little bit of padding at the top there. You can see that I think helps in terms of cinching those laces down. I did use a runner's knot with the lace loops. I generally just use that anyway. It's quite slippy out there, and I wanted to make sure I had good lockdown. And I did have really good lockdown in this shoe. I had no heel slippage. My ankles were kept nice and locked in. Everything felt great in terms of lockdown. It has a heel collar padded. You can see there. It's not overly padded, but just about right. It's how I like it, actually. And a flexible counter. Again, how I like it. I have some sensitive Achilles, so this gave me no issues whatsoever with any heel rubbing or, you know, friction on my Achilles. So upper, absolutely fantastic. If I was to rate that out of 5, I'd give it a 5. It's the best upper I've used on a racing shoe since the other Pro 4, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. For me, I love the look of this as well. This is one of my favourite looking running shoes. It's such a clean, sleek design. One thing to bear in mind while we're in this area is you've got this sole flare here on the medial side, so that adds to the stability. You can see the foam sticking out there, so it gives you that nice landing pad. For those that land around here, they're going to get that nice support, extra support from that extra wide area there. So let's move to the outsole. So you can see straight away you've got this small slab or triangle of Continental rubber, and then the rest of it is a different, it's called light traction. It's pretty good, to be honest. I mean, I didn't notice much difference than I did with the Continental rubber that was on the previous version on this, and also on the Prime Strung 2. I felt this gripped equally as well, and in fact I think it felt like it had a nicer feel, almost like a softer feel to it than the Continental rubber. So I think this outsole is going to be very good, very durable. It's actually the same material that they use on some of the Chinese brands like the X-Step. As you can see here, very grippy. And it's meant to be actually very, very durable. So I think this is going to protect this foam underneath very, very well. The only thing I would say is, you know, from the point of view of landing, it's going to be nice and grippy and it's going to protect well. I think the foam, though, is likely to degrade quicker than the actual outsole, really, because this stuff will last forever, I think. So, but regardless of that, really good outsole. I used it, if you check the run footage, I used this on very slippery ground today, and it handled it superbly well. I was going downhill on very, very, and some parts of it were like ice, and it gripped really well. So I think this is one of the better outsoles out there. It's right up there, like I said, with the original Continental grip that you get in the Prime X, and also we got in the Pro 3. And I think it's a slightly nicer feel to land on. It's slightly softer. So all in all, great outsole. I will give this probably 4.5 out of 5. The only thing I didn't like about it is I land on the lateral side, and you can see there's a kind of cutout of the outsole here, and I get a feeling that I might start to wear away this area a little bit. So if you're like me and you land somewhere around here, that could become an issue, and it could be a durability issue for this shoe, but something just to bear in mind. But for me, otherwise, I think it's great. Those that are heel strikers, when you land, it kind of, because of how soft this foam is, and you can see my fingers pressing into it, how soft it is. This splays, so you might get some wear in the foam around this area and this area. So again, that's why I've marked it down half a mark, because although they covered it well, I think there are some areas that might have some issues. Regarding heel strikers, we'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. There are some serious issues, I think, for heel strikers with this shoe. And then the final thing to note, you can see the carbon rods there. They haven't changed. It's the carbon rods 2.0. They haven't changed from the previous version, the Pro 3. They're also the same rods that they used, I believe, in the Prime X, original Prime X and Prime X Strung. Okay, so that's the outsole. So 4.5 out of 5. Midsole now is where it gets really interesting. So let's talk about both the foam and the geometry. Foam is, as it says, Light Strike Pro, but it's a different formulation. You can tell instantly it's a lot bouncier, softer, compresses and decompresses really nicely, this foam. So it's a lot softer than the Light Strike Pro that you get in the Prime X Strung 2 and the Pro 3 version of this shoe. So it's nowhere near as firm as those shoes. Why I brought the Prime X2 here, though, is I think actually this foam, we may have seen this foam before, nobody's kind of picked up on it, but this really soft foam that you see here, sandwiched between the normal Light Strike Pro, it could well be the same formulation as this shoe. I've not heard any others reviewers mentioning that, but I've got a suspicion that it could be, because it's very soft and bouncy. And I said when I reviewed this shoe, wouldn't it be great if they use more of this foam in the next version of the Prime X3? And maybe what they've actually done is said, well, let's try and use that foam here in the in the Adios Pro 4. And let's see if we can make it stable enough for them to use that soft, bouncy foam. And for me as a 4-foot striker, and this is when we'll talk a bit about the geometry of the shoe, that kind of works. I don't feel that unstable because I'm landing on this huge pad. I'm actually landing pretty much on this widest point here. So when I land exactly where this rocker starts, and I move forward and I toe off, and I get that nice compression and decompression and bounce forward. So this shoe, I mean, it feels like it was built for me and my foot strike. Works really well. It's very, like I said, soft and bouncy, really plush ride. It feels so lovely to run in this shoe. The closest feel I've had to running in this shoe was actually the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris. They felt very similar to me. I think the geometry, though, is a bit more like the Edge Paris with the early stage rocker. So what, as you can see there, they're similar in terms of where the rocker starts, okay? Now what Adidas have done here compared to the previous version is they've moved the start of the rocker back. So the previous version, I believe, was around 70%, the 70% point, so that would be somewhere around here. And now they've moved it back to somewhere around here. And what that means is it becomes more of an aggressive shoe. You reach that rocker earlier in your foot strike and it rolls you forward. You get more of a roll forward. And then as you compress and decompress the foam, like I said, you get thrown forward with this shoe. So for me, 100% this foam, this soft bouncy foam and the geometry of the shoe works as a 4-foot striker. But we're not all 4-foot strikers. We're not all built like me as well. This works, I think, because I'm quite light. So when I compress it, I'm not compressing it as much as some other people might be doing. And for some people, this might have a feeling, this soft foam might have a feeling like you're sinking too much into it. For me, it was fine. It felt like a real pitter-patter kind of feeling. When I hit the ground, I got a nice little ping forward. Very reminiscent of this shoe, the Sky Paris. And that's why I feel like it feels similar to this shoe. Very nimble, agile, quick, and a lovely shoe to run in. When I went up some hills today in this shoe, it felt amazing. Flying up those hills, it felt so light and nimble. This has become a real competitor of those shoes, of the two ASICS shoes. I feel like it's somewhere, if I had to place it, it's somewhere in between them in terms of how it feels. It's got a definite feel when I run in it, like the Sky Paris, but it's got that aggressive rocker like the Edge Paris. And it feels slightly bouncier than both of them, if I had to say. I think it's more similar in terms of bounce to the Sky Paris for me. I feel like I'm engaging the plate in this shoe and this shoe kind of equally, a bit more than I do in the Edge. So what I'm actually saying is, as a 4-foot striker, someone who's less of a shuffler, more of a bounder, this shoe is fantastic, and I found the ride today in this shoe was amazing. I think this is going to be a real weapon for me. I think I can hit some serious speeds in this shoe because I'm not compressing the foam as much as some people. I think it's going to be quite an efficient shoe for me to run in. My only concerns, if I have got any concerns, and midsole I'm going to buy about 5. For my foot strike. My only concerns are the toe box maybe is a little bit too narrow, and when I take this to the marathon distance, and I think it's a when rather than if, I maybe get some pressure on my toes that I may not like at the end of that race. But that's the only thing that actually puts me off this shoe at the moment. Everything else works for me. But this is not just about me. This is about everyone in general. And there are some downsides to this shoe for certain people. So if you're a heel striker, and I practice landing on my heel in this shoe, what you're going to find is this heel split, because how soft it is, it splays. And what that means is you're going to get this weird suction feeling as you land, where it almost sucks the ground, and it feels weird. It's a bit like when I walk in this shoe. It feels weird. So it leads me to believe at slower paces, or when you're striking on the heel, this is not a good shoe. So I think for people who are maybe 4.5 hours to 5 hour marathon runners, this may not work for you so well. It might be okay at 5K and 10K, but I think once you go to those longer distances, I don't think this is going to be a great shoe for those slower paces. It's going to be perfect for elite athletes. It's going to be, for me who runs now starting to run sub-3 marathons, it's going to be pretty good, I think. But for those who are slower, and I don't mean any disrespect by that, I'm not sure this is the best for running slow. It's quite an aggressive shoe, and also I feel like you're not going to get the most out of the foam at running at slower paces. I think that this is also not a good shoe for heel strikers, and I think I heard in certain YouTubers have been saying it's a bit of a mess, and I think it's a mess because they're heel strike and they're getting this splaying that's causing it to suck the ground and feel really weird. And when I ran on my heel in this shoe, it felt weird and nowhere near as nice as when I landed on the 4-foot, which felt a lot, not firmer, but felt more compliant, more propulsive when I landed here. Here it felt a bit like I was fighting against the shoe and the foam was trying to dig into the ground a bit. I didn't like it. So I think for heel strikers, they might have an issue with this shoe. So I just want you to be all aware. I try and do these reviews based on not just me, but my thoughts on how other people will find this shoe. So heel strikers, I'm saying I'm not sure this is the best shoe. Also heavier runners, I get the feeling a bit like I did with the Metaspeed Sky Paris, that this has been purposely built for elite runners who are often lighter, who are often unlikely to compress the foam as much. So they get a nice little compression and then decompression that's quicker. Whereas the heavier you are, the more you're going to compress, the slower the decompression will be, and the less propulsion you're going to get out of this shoe. And I think that comes with this softer foam, to be honest. You'll sink more into it than you did with the previous Lightstrike Pro, the previous version of this shoe. So I think all in all, I think this is a great shoe, but it's a great shoe for certain people, for certain foot strikes. And I think for the vast majority of people who are heel strikers, this might be a bit of a challenge of a shoe, actually. But for those that land further forward, and I think sort of like mid-foot to forefoot, you're going to get a hell of a lot out of this shoe. It's going to feel great, bouncy, fun, responsive. The rods are great. They do the job of a carbon plate, but they feel a bit more natural because they kind of run a bit like your toes would. They feel less severe on your foot for me. I didn't feel the harshness of the rods at all. I felt them helping me spring forward. So all in all, to summarise, on the run, this felt great. I was able to kind of pick up pace very easily in this shoe. Felt great going up hills, very good grip, very comfortable upper. I had no issues with my toes or lockdown. I felt like the foam was very responsive when I did some strides. It was easy to pick up pace, going around corners, very nimble shoe. It has now, Adidas have now produced a shoe, I think, that's up there with the Metaspeeds of this world. I think it's a real viable competitor to the Metaspeeds and the Alpha Fly 3. I'll do a comparison between the shoes. But straight off the bat, I found this a much more natural feeling ride than I do the Alpha Fly 3, which compared to this shoe feels more mechanical. I'm not saying that this is a quicker shoe, by the way. I'm just saying that in terms of how this feels for me, it feels much more natural and more bouncy and more fun and a bit softer than that shoe does. I think the foam is a great enhancement for Adidas. I think it's become a lot closer to Zoom X, the feeling of Zoom X. It may have even gone beyond that in terms of the feel. I find it difficult to assess Zoom X at the moment because I only really have the Alpha Fly 3. And I feel the pod, where I land, I feel the pod's a lot more than I do the foam. But I do feel like this foam is a winner for Adidas, and I'm looking forward to see how they use this in their other products, like the Prime X 3, which is coming. And like I said right at the start of this review, my suspicions are that we've already seen this foam before in this shoe, and I am really looking forward to it. They can kind of somehow produce a Prime X 3 that's full of this foam, but with some stabilising elements with the plates and a higher stack. We could be in for one hell of a fun ride. So that's my initial review of the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 4. I think that's right, yeah. I love this shoe, and I will be taking it on a park run very soon, putting it through its paces, doing some real speed work in it. And then I'm going to try and assess whether this is a good shoe for half marathon distances. I suspect it's the best kind of distance might be 10k to half marathon. A marathon, it might be a bit more challenging because how soft it is, and maybe because of the limited room in the toe box. But at the moment, I could even see myself running a marathon in this shoe. So that's all I want to say today. Hopefully that's been useful. Check out the run footage. And yeah, Adidas, absolute banger, as some people would say. Fire, as some people will say. And as I say, it's a winner. It's a winner, baby. See you later. So it's really frosty and quite slippery this morning. And the first thing to note in these shoes is they're pretty good, seem to have a pretty good grip. So it's not full continental grip this time. It's just got a bit of a patch of continental grip in the Adidas Pro 4 in the forefoot, and the rest is some other compound. I forget the name actually when we do the proper review and go through that, but it's the ones that they use on some of the Chinese brand, the rubber that they use. I think they use it on some of the X-Step shoes in China. It's supposed to be very durable outsole rubber, and it seems to be quite grippy at the moment. I'm liking the feel of these shoes already actually. They're already reminding me of somewhere between the Sky and Edge Paris. I'm feeling like they are very similar to the Sky Paris in this kind of way your feet kind of pitter-patter over the ground. They're very light, and you can almost hear the noise of them, the pitter-patter noise. I think these are going to be good for light runners actually. Foam is soft. I'm not finding it ridiculously soft like some people. Some people, the reviewers, have said that they're finding it way too soft, but I think the one review in particular I'm thinking of, the heel strikes, and if I land on the heel it feels really weird. So I'm landing on the heel now and I'm getting this weird suction. It's like the heel is splaying, a bit like you get with the Neo Vista actually, but in this case not as nice. So yeah, you get, it's almost like sucking the ground, which feels a bit weird. Whereas the Neo Vista, it kind of just gives you that nice little suction. This actually properly sucks the ground when you land on your heel. But on the forefoot, yeah, it's pretty nice to be honest. Yeah, it does remind me a lot of the Asics shoe actually. And I wonder if Adidas have used those as inspiration for this shoe actually. It's very light, nimble shoe. It's quite narrow actually, so those with wide feet, a bit like me, they might find this challenging over a long distance. Hopefully the fabric will ease up a bit, but I've been told they've used a fabric that doesn't move horizontally, which in theory means, whether it's true or not, in theory means that I've just remembered I forgot to stop Strava. I did start it. But yeah, which in theory means that it won't get wide with your foot. Yeah, as in like your foot you won't get any give in your toe box with the fabric, which I guess is to keep you nice and locked in. But it's probably not so good if you're hoping that eventually this fabric's going to mould to your foot shape. But anyway, I'm not finding it uncomfortable, despite what people are saying about being a very narrow toe box. I'm finding the upper quite comfortable. I'm getting good lockdown, no issues there. I went true to size in this shoe. I've been told I should go up half a size,
So I couldn't manage to get 9.5. So I went true to size, and so far I'm quite glad I didn't go up half the size. I mean, obviously I haven't taken this on any distance yet, and that'll probably be the true test of the shoe. You know, if I take it a long distance, will it start to hurt my toes and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a nice shoe to run in. I'm on tired legs from yesterday, but it's definitely a quick shoe, this one. I can feel it. It's got a nice forward momentum with the rocker, keeps me flowing forward. Nice energy return from the midsole. Feels like a bit more of a shoe, if you know what I mean, than the Sky and Edge Paris. Bit of a bigger shoe, but still feel nice and nimble. The Rockery I don't think is quite as aggressive as the Edge, but maybe a little bit more aggressive than the Sky. Somewhere in between. Very soft, nice, but not ridiculously soft foam. Like some people have said, it's too soft. I'm not finding that. Every step counts. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, that's the gym finished. So on my way to meet up with my daughter to make sure she gets on the bus and be a good father. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Us blokes making sure we look after our families. I'm not saying women don't either. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me drawn into that debate. But I mean, it's good to be a nice role model. Someone that, you know, particularly if you've got young children, someone that it can look up to and think, oh, they'll always be protected when those people are around. So, anyway, talking shit again. Let me talk about the shoes, because these are my first new shoes of the year. I have to say, I'm really liking these shoes. They feel very nimble, agile. I feel like I can fly across the ground in them. I love the geometry of it. I think I really do think the rocker suits where I land on the forefoot. I think they're going to be really good shoes for me for 5k, 10k, possibly half marathon and maybe even the full marathon. But these shoes are definitely not for everyone. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So they are soft. So if you've got any stability issues, i.e. like you've got any ankle problems and you've got a problem keeping your foot locked in because of ankle weaknesses, these aren't going to help much. Because of how soft the foam is, I'm already feeling when you bounce, a slightly irregular bounce. I mean, for me it's fine because I land further forward on the forefoot, so I can control that. But if you're a heel striker, this did not feel good. Felt a bit all over the place, to be honest. I think Joanna described this as a hot mess, and I'm starting to see why he thought that way. But of course, you've got to take into consideration other foot strikes, right? And for me, you know, I run a marathon, and I would say a good 15 miles of that marathon, I'm right up on my forefoot. It's only after about 15, 16 miles do I start to gradually come back onto my midfoot, and then that's probably as far back as I get. I don't get to the heel. I don't ever strike my heel on the heel in a marathon unless I've got a problem, you know, unless my calves are going to explode or something, or Achilles issue or something, I don't know. So with this shoe, it's going to feel very different depending on how you foot strike. So for me as a full foot striker, it feels really good. You know, I'm rocking forward, nice and soft, but not too soft. I think the rubber, the outsole's really good. I'm getting really good traction here. I know it's not full continental, but I'm not seeing much difference, to be honest. This is slippy ground I'm on here, and it's dealing with it really well. I'm going fairly fast now as well. Manhole cover, dealt with that well. Yeah, this is a good outsole. And like I said, for me, I know this foam is soft and it is a bit unstable, particularly if you land on the heel, but I'm able to control this. I think it's a really nice feel to it. My one doubt with this shoe, for me, is the width of the toe box and whether it's going to cause me problem with my toes later on in the marathon. But so far, I'm loving the feel of this shoe. Absolutely loving it. And I'm going to love this coffee in a minute. I'll get from there. Source of life. What a great name for a coffee shop. Well, it's a bakery actually. But, you know, coffee and bread. Source of life. Of course it is. Well, coffee is anyway. I know some people give up bread. It can make them fat. It's not something I've been able to give up. I saw an interview recently with Jude Law, of all people, who said he'd given up bread. So maybe post in the comments. We'll do a cookery show or a nutrition show even. Post in the comments for those who have given up bread as part of a healthier diet. Right, my daughter should be somewhere around here. Well, unless she's come out late. God, you can see how cold it is. Look how frozen all the cars are. Really good for going up hills as well, this shoe. I'm going up a hill now. It's very similar. Very similar feel to the Sky Paris. For those who like that shoe, and they like it because they land further forward on the forefoot, they're going to love this shoe. It's very similar. Feels a bit more, potentially more robust than that shoe. I think the dimensions are pretty similar. Slightly less in the heel, this one, 39. 33 in the forefoot, I believe. 6mm drop. I don't know where my daughter is. Maybe I missed her. It's possible. Right, that's all for me for a bit. I'm a bit confused. .com this morning. Let's find out where she is. So my daughter in the end, I think, caught the bus. So she got an early bus. So I needn't have rushed back, which is slightly annoying. But there you go. Like I said, should be trying to be a good dad. So as you can see, the floor's very slippy, very icy, and this actually is dealing with that very well at the moment, as well as it can do. Any shoe can. There'll be some interesting park runs this weekend if this weather keeps going the way it is. People will be slipping and sliding all over the place, and it'll be more of a whoever can hold their feet will win those runs, I should say, not races. So, going back to this shoe, I have to say, it's not often I put a shoe on and I run in it and I think, yes, this one's for me. So I felt that about this Cielo X1 straight out of the box. And now I'm feeling that about this shoe. I felt it also about the Sky Paris and a little bit the Sky Edge. So I would say those 4 shoes, to me, straight out the box, I felt really good. But I have to say, this is kind of up there with the Cielo in terms of how it feels. The foam is nice, soft, compliant, but I don't know, somehow it gives you good energy return back, some spring bounce. You know, although you sink into it, it doesn't feel too detrimental to picking up pace. So, well, let me just check. I've useless on Strava this morning. One sec. Right. I've probably done about 5k this morning and I've only registered 1.6. There you go. Useless. Right, let me get running again. Get my gloves on. Right. What was I saying? Yeah, the feel of it. I feel like I'm getting a lot of energy return from this shoe. And it's definitely giving me Sky Paris vibes. Obviously, this foam is not as firm as the FF Turbo Plus foam, which is firmer, and denser. But this is still giving me that tippy-tappy feeling like I've got some Speed Merchant shoes on my feet, which I like. It feels so light and nimble. And for me, I've been a 4-foot striker, they're a good shoe. I can tell that already. I'm going to be able to do some fast times in this shoe. Where I land, I'm landing perfectly placed to rock forward. And I think that's going to be the strength and the issue with this shoe. For those of us who land further forward and don't mind a shoe that's got a lot of bounce, nice and soft, but good energy return, then they're going to absolutely love this shoe. So this is kind of a shoe that I feel like it's been built for my preferences, running preferences. But for those of you who like a bit more of a stable shoe, that want to land a bit further back, heel strikers, you might actually hate this shoe. So it's not going to suit everyone. I'm running down this hill now and it's really slippy and it's gripping so well. Outsole is great on this. I think I listened to a review that said the outsole wasn't good on this shoe, but it is. Don't listen to that, it's good. I think it's up there with Puma, and I don't see a drop off from the full Continental rubber that we had on previous versions. Oh yes, so we should talk about that. So previous version of this shoe, the 3, I had some real problems with the upper. It was digging into my foot, the lace lids or whatever you call them, and also I couldn't get a great lockdown, probably because of that. I didn't want to tighten the laces too much, so I didn't do as many miles in that shoe as I would have liked, and ended up selling him actually. Maybe I should have persevered and figured a way, but I just felt at the time, what's the point? If it's not working for me, it's not working for me. So yeah, God, it's all frozen over now, look, properly frozen. Don't want to wreck these shoes. Yeah, icy. But I can think back to that shoe and what it was like, And the foam, Light Strike Pro, same name, but it's completely different foam. That was a lot more dense. There's a lot harsher feeling to that shoe, you know, in the sense that it's a lot firmer and a lot denser. Some people absolutely love that. I needed a breaking period for that shoe, as I did with the Prime X Strong 2 actually. And once it broke in, it felt great. But until then, I had some issues. And right, I'm not going to get these wrecked. Sorry, look at this. No, I hate going through that. Oh, actually, let's go. The frozen ground should be alright. Let's go around. Yeah, going back to it. So it's a lot denser and a lot firmer than this. So those that love the Pro 4 for that reason, they liked how dense and solid that shoe was, the firmness. You may also not like this because it's the complete opposite. And I think we're going to find this year with a lot of the new shoes, a lot of them have gone for this new compound that's very soft and compliant, that you compress very easily, but it gives you a massive bounce, energy return. And I think they feel, the shoe companies, that will appeal more to the mass market of runners. There's lots of runners out there who actually just want to run in something that's comfortable, soft, bouncy, have fun. It may not be doing their ankles any good, but they find that out later in the day, don't they? But when they put them on, they think, wow, this is cool. And I think maybe that's the reasoning. And also I read somewhere that they, you know, they're first and foremost, they design these shoes for these races for their elite athletes. And of course, particularly the women athletes, they're going to be very light, some of them, and the men as well. And so when we put these shoes on, we'll compress them a lot more than they will. The foam will sink into the foam a lot more than they will. They'll kind of glide, whereas we'll sink and bounce, right? And it did cross my mind that maybe that's what's happening here, that they're designing these shoes for mass market appeal, but also the other extreme, with their elite athletes in mind, who aren't going to be heavy and aren't going to compress this foam so much that it becomes an issue. And I imagine a lot of these runners, these elite runners, are 4-foot strikers, right? I don't know the stats, but I'm guessing that's the case, right? Part of the reason I transitioned away from heel striking to 4-foot striking, and it took me about 6 months to do it. Can be done, by the way. Lots of people say it can't. You never get away from your natural foot strike. Well, it's nonsense. You can do it. It just takes a bit of discipline, and you know, you've got to do it. Be patient. It can hurt your calves and stuff like that. But part of the reason I did that was because, you know, I thought it would help in terms of my top end speed, and it has done. I mean, since doing that, I must have gone from sort of 1955k to low 17s, you know, 1713, I think. I can never remember. It's either 1713 or 1708. I know that's terrible. You should always remember what your fastest time is. But had a period when I was running so many 5Ks, I got a bit confused. But I think I'm going to say 17:13. So I went from 19:50 something to 17:13. So I dropped, over 2 minutes. And for me, that's about many things, not just foot strike, but foot strike is definitely one element of that. And so, it's meant that I now target shoes, particularly racers, that are good for full foot strikers. And always when I read reviews of shoes, I always look at that. Unfortunately, I think over 60% of us are heel strikers. I say unfortunately for me. So a lot of the reviewers, when they review these shoes, they're reviewing them as a heel striker, which is good for the mass market, right? But for me, oh, look at this ice here. Slippy. For me, it's not so good because I get information that's not great, like hotness, which I totally understand because when I go back on the heel, this does feel like a hot mess. But when you're landing further forward on your forefoot, it feels absolutely wonderful. And midfoot feels normal, but forefoot feels great. You engage the plate as well. I feel the plate being engaged, like I did with the Sky Paris. Yeah, great shoe, this one. Great shoe for me. So let's go through the areas of the shoe. We'll obviously do a review later, but upper for me is lovely, getting really good lockdown. Alright, my toes are a little bit cramped, but the materials actually doesn't feel too harsh, not like the Primex strung, so it's not hurting my toes or anything. I haven't been a long way in this yet, but that'll be the ice test when I take this on a half marathon, which I will do. How will that toe area feel at the end? How will my toes feel at the end, more importantly? But for now, upper, I'm gonna give 5 out of 5 for now. And I'm glad I went true to size and didn't go up half a size, because lockdown is superb in this. My heel's not moving around at all. Ankles are locked in. So yeah, Adidas, top marks for the upper. You've done blindingly well there. Let's have a look. And the look of it, I give 5 out of 5 as well. I think it looks superb, this shoe. My favourite looking running shoe, actually, now. I do like the Nova Blast, but it's up there. The two of those, Nova Blast 5, I mean. Two of those are my favourite now. So, if we move to the outsole, I'm getting very good grip here as well. I think I'm benefiting as well. There is a patch of continental rubber in the forefoot, and I'm probably landing somewhere around there. So I'm benefiting from that as well. So yeah, so that's good, really good, no slipping. And if you look at how icy, frosty this ground is today, it's a really good test. And I'm still able to push the pace a little bit in this shoe, and it feels fine. In fact, why don't we do that now on this icy ground? Let's give it a little bit of a pace test. Not too much because my legs feel tired still. on that long run the day before. Let's go to the water, shall we? Well, we're going to have to jump across. Right. Solid. That felt good. Felt easy running at that quicker pace. And my legs aren't feeling great, and that was easy. So speed test is good. We'll talk about midsole in a minute, but let's go back to the outsole. Went quick over that slippy ground then, and had no slippage. So outsole, I'm going to give 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I'm not giving it 5 is it's not full continental rubber, and I still think perhaps that is slightly better. But I think 4 out of 5 is a fair mark, and shows how good it is. Now midsole now, the hot mess. Well, I'm going to get rid of the mess, and I'm going to say this is hot, baby. This is fire, and for me, I'm loving the feel of this. I'm up on my toes, it's throwing me forward, it's bouncing me along, I'm engaging the plate. I'm not a heavy runner, I'm 64 kg, and or maybe slightly more since Christmas, like all of us. And I'm engaging that plate, but I'm not sinking in too much. It's nice and soft, responsive, bouncy, fun. All those things mean for me, midsole is a nice 5 out of 5. And I've not felt this since this yellow. I mean, the Mizuno Wave Beta as well is very nice and bouncy and fun as well. It's just not stable at all, that shoe, particularly around corners. This shoe though, by no means stable shoe, but I don't feel any issues on cambered pavements and going around corners. It feels fine. So for me, this midsole is fine. But I caveat all of this by saying that I land on my forefoot, and if you land further back, which I'm going to do now, it feels weird. It feels like the heel is splaying and it's sucking the ground a bit. I mean, it doesn't feel terrible. I just don't get the real benefits out of this midsole when I land further back, which is a shame for 60% of you or more. So I apologise on behalf of Adidas for that. Nothing I can do. They've gone with elite athletes in mind, I think, and I'm benefiting because of the way I foot strike, not because I'm an elite athlete. By the way, before you jump in there two-footed. So yeah, so midsole for me is a 5, and I feel like this could be a real weapon for me over 5 and 10k for sure, and possibly the half. I definitely will take this on a half and see how it performs. Like I said, my only worry is my toes and how they're going to feel after that half, but this material is quite nice and soft, feels quite compliant, and I know it's not meant to move horizontally, but when my toes, and I can feel my toes touching the material, but it doesn't feel bad, it doesn't feel coarse like it does with the Primex Strung, for instance. So yeah, I'm hopeful that it'll be okay for at least half marathon, maybe marathon even. We'll see. But yeah, it's a big thumbs up for the midsole for me, 5 out of 5. So if we take those 3 areas, I think that makes 14 and a half. Yeah, which is a pretty damn good score, right? And so you're getting the feeling that I'm liking this shoe, and I'm hoping you will too. That's all for me now. I'll see you later. Bye bye.